Hello, everybody. How are you guys? So many people have asked me to do a lyrics explained episode on Hollywood's Bleeding, Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone, even though it's an older album that came out in 2019. So let's just get it on the record so we have it for all time. This is Lyrics Explained, where I count on my 4 years at the University of Texas graduate program in lyrics appreciation to help you understand your songs, your favorite music better so you can enjoy them even more. So let's get into it. Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone. Number one song is the title track. Now, it's operating on a couple of different levels, guys. He's talking about people that have super fast cars in Hollywood, but they don't have the skills to control them. You're talking about some spoiled rich people that don't take the time to go down to the performance track and learn from the best how to handle a high performance car. And so they end up crashing into bus stops, crashing into In-N-Outs, crashing into Five Guys, hamburger joints, and they get lacerations, they get cuts, they start to bleed. But also he's talking about a lot of the Hollywood production going to Atlanta and other places because it's cheaper to produce a movie in those kind of sites, Vancouver. But he's also talking about on a personal level, he is spending less time in Hollywood, more time in Utah, where his primary house is, his biggest house, because he couldn't get anything done. All of the parties, all of the distractions. Now, number two is Saint-Tropez. This is a left-wing player for the Montreal Canadiens, the New York Rangers, and the Chicago Blackhawks over his career in the 1940s, a professional hockey player who innovated hockey by creating the curved hockey stick. It didn't exist before. They were all flat blades. Now, what is he saying also? He's saying that I, Post Malone, am an innovator. An innovator and an innovator. And so he's drawing a couple of parallels. Now, remember, we've talked about many times on my Lyrics Explained videos that most songs are operating on at least two levels, and we'll try to cover those as best we can, but that's what's going on here. Post Malone seeing himself, and truly is, an innovator in the pop/hip-hop music genres. As can be evidenced by song number 3, Enemies, featuring DaBaby, possibly one of the hottest, or if not the hottest, hip-hop artists right now. DaBaby, just killing it with songs like Rockstar. And so in this song, Enemies, they talk about how sometimes the hip-hop worlds and the pop worlds look at the different genres, the different disciplines as enemies, but really they're not. And of course, Post Malone doing so much to cross over on those different disciplines of music, different parts of the music world. And so enemies are really friends, or maybe even frenemies. And that's what that song is talking about. Allergic, this is interesting because Post Malone is really a Texas baby. He moved to Los Angeles at 18, and of course that led to the explosion of his career because he was able to assemble the team and assemble the production capability that he needed to create White Iverson, for example, and songs of that level that catapulted him to stardom. But now he's from Texas, but he moves to LA. He's allergic to so much in LA. Like, for example, you don't have quite the sunshine in Dallas that you do in Los Angeles. The sun is out an average of 18 hours a day, so he found that he had to put on sunblock of like level 50. Okay, if not 30, he had the level 50 ready to go because he was getting sunburn. He was allergic to so much sun and so many other things in the air in LA because of the smog. He was having a lot of allergic reactions, and that's what allergic is talking about. Now, number 5, 1,000 Bad Times. This is a slow, laconic, emotional song that looks back on what led to his stardom. A lot of people look at a star and they go, oh, they were lucky. They didn't put it, but he put in the work. No matter what haters say, what detractors say, critics, Post Malone put in the work leading up to his stardom, which did come at a young age, but he was working on his music from the age of 6. The guy was writing songs at the age of 6 and went through 1,000 bad times before he started to click. And now he's the Posty Maloney that we know today. Number 6, Circles, another big hit off this album. Of course, we've talked about that this album came out almost a year ago now, guys. But let's talk about Circles, talking about the rhythms of life, talking about the challenges that we all face, and that a lot of times, if you ever had a relationship that you broke up with somebody and you're like, I'm never doing that again, what happens? You get into a relationship with somebody very similar. Why? Because who knows? We attract the same kind of person perhaps, or perhaps in our mind we want a type of person and we end up with the same type of person. Maybe now they're a brunette rather than a redhead, or vice versa. You know, you get the idea. We're working in circles, the rhythms of life, and that's what Circles talks about. Now, this is an interesting song. Number 7, Die For Me, with both Future and Halsey. Again, some of the biggest names in music working with Post Malone now. Die For Me is an interesting song because it talks about this drinking game that they used to play back in Texas when Posty was in high school. Now, we're not advocating underage drinking, but let's be honest, some of the bottle caps were popped before people were of legal age, and Die For Me was a drinking game that was played by smuggling beers into the movie Dazed and Confused, and then every time that Matthew McConaughey spoke, you sipped a beer. And so, why it's called Die For Me, nobody really knows, but that's what that song is all about. And Halsey, of course, with some of the best lyrics in that song. And now, number 8, On the Road, with Meek Mill and Lil Baby. How many babies are on this album? We got Da Baby, we got Lil Baby. So number 8, On the Road. Now, what's the best part of being a rock star? Because you want to be on stage. What's going on the road? Now, a lot of rock stars in the latter part of their career, we're talking about, they don't want to be on the road. They want to go to Vegas and play one of the big casinos, okay? Play the stage at a casino and not have to be on the road. Not have to think about sitting in the tour bus or going on the airplane between Kansas City and Omaha to get to the next gig. All right, they just want to wake up in Vegas, play a little craps, play a little poker, and go to the show. But On the Road talks about the romance and the early part of your career, when you're meeting people from all over the world, okay? Even though those tourists from Japan might go to see you in Vegas, why don't you go to Japan and see them, okay? Because not everybody in Japan has the money to fly to Vegas, fly to Laughlin. Maybe they don't even know where Laughlin is. So On the Road, talking about the romance of the road. Number 9, Take What You Want, of course, with Travis Scott and Ozzy Osbourne. Guys, I interviewed Ozzy Osbourne in high school, and I don't remember at that time asking him about Post Malone, because why? Post Malone wasn't born yet. So Take What You Want, talking about taking action in life, demanding from yourself to raise your level of excellence, raise your commitment to your own success, taking what you want. Well, people say, oh, well, that's not nice. You shouldn't just take what you want. You should ask for it. No. If you look at somebody that has achieved anything in life, they went out and took it. And you can too, and that's what this song is all about. Of course, Ozzy Osbourne and Travis Scott, 2 of the biggest names in the business. You think they just sat around and waited for the phone to ring? No. They made things happen, as has Posty. Number 10, I'm Gonna Be. Now here's a reflective song, more of a inner Posty, talking about I'm Gonna Be. He's not really talking about stardom so much in this song. He's talking about the challenges that we all face on what kind of man does Post want to be, what kind of man do you want to be? What kind of woman do you want to be? What are the characteristics of your moral compass, of your character that you want to be? What kind of example do you want to be for your kids and for the future generations? So it's not so much materialistic success, but what kind of person do you want to be as an example for people that will look up to you? And he's saying, I'm going to be a great guy. And that's what he is. Number 11, Staring at the Sun, featuring SZA. Now, SZA is a really interesting artist because she's blown up so much on her own, but appearing on so many different types of artists' tracks. Hip-hop, country, classical. I mean, SZA has been on so many New York Philharmonic Orchestra, Cleveland Symphony Orchestra, LA Philharmonic, and SZA comes in with the hip-hop rhymes over the top of these classical tracks. It's really a wonderful blend, and I think it's going to speak so much to her career because maybe at some point she wants to drop the R&B, drop the hip-hop, and just maybe slide over into the classical realm on a 100% full-time basis. Who knows? But again, this song with SZA, Staring at the Sun, talking about the dangers of staring at the sun. You don't want to do it, guys. Even when they have those eclipses and they sell you those fake sunglasses, they say, oh, you can just look through these sunglasses at the eclipse. Don't do it, guys. So many people have lost their sight. And remember, some very important people have stared at the sun when they shouldn't have. And we know who they are, but let's don't talk about it because let's let bygones be bygones, okay? Now, again, another hit, number 12, Sunflower, Spider-Man, who's into the Spider-Verse. That was a big hit. And, of course, with Sway Lee. Sway Lee, who he worked on with the song Rockstar, which was also the title of, don't get it confused with the Baby song Rockstar, all right, which came out later. But going back to the release, and remember, this is an older album, and Sunflower was another song with Sway Lee. The second one, I believe, that he did with Sway Lee, the first one being Rockstar, which was the big hit of 2019. But again, Sunflower, another monster hit. How is it that Post Malone is able to create so many hits? Well, the thing is, he's a man of the people. That's what it is. When you see him in interviews, do you think he puts on airs? Do you think he's highfalutin with his nose in the air looking down on the little people? No. He's a man of the people. He's got the cigarette out. He's talking about meeting everybody. He's the nicest guy possible. Even when they come at him, like they did on the morning show in New York, all right, they came at him, but he was ready. He was like, well, listen, man, I'm just being myself. So Sunflower talks about just being yourself, just being your own flower in the sun, no matter how people want you to be. Number 13, Internet. Now, here's an interesting song because he talks about the way things have changed from the time that he was a kid growing up. Now, the Internet's been around. Posty is not that old. He's like, I don't know, 21, 22. The Internet is, came out 94. So let's say 2004, 2014. Now it's 29, right? 2020, 26 years. So his whole life has been online. His entire life. Okay, releasing tracks on MySpace when he was 7 years old. I think he had like 14 or 1,500 songs on MySpace. And at that time, his handle on MySpace was Posty or Post Up. He would change it up depending on his mood at the time. As he got to be 10 years old, he changed it a couple times. But so he talks about those days, those MySpace days, and really generating a name for himself early on. He just didn't explode on the scene with White Iverson. He'd been cooking in the internet kitchen for a long time. So that's what that song's about. Now, again, another partnership on number 14 with Young Thug on the song Goodbyes. Wow, isn't that what life's all about? It's welcoming new people into our life. But as things change, as we get new jobs, leave jobs, as we move to new locales, different cities, as our life changes, as we go after new goals, what happens? goodbyes. We have to say goodbye to people. You try to stay in touch. And maybe for the first couple of years, you do stay in touch. And then what happens? You lose track of them. You lose their phone number, their email. They move on. And then 20 years, 5 years later, you see them on MySpace. You're like, well, how have you been? And they're like, who's this? Like, I don't know who you are. So it happens. Number 15, myself. Wow. Isn't this so interesting that Post Malone, as we've talked about in so many of these tracks, a running theme through his lyrics is being yourself. And here he is talking about myself. He just wants to be himself. When he wears a Dallas Cowboys logo that's made of diamonds, okay, or if he wears a hat, he wears a cowboy hat that's made of diamonds and gold that's worth $43 million, which he has. He keeps that in his house, okay? He's being himself. You say, why would you wear a cowboy hat that's worth $43 million and you can only wear it in photo shoots because most of the time you have to have it locked up. He had it in his house for a while, but now it's locked up at an undisclosed location so people don't go for it. People don't try to rob him of that wonderful hat. Well, he's being himself, guys, and so should you, and that's what Posty is saying. Now, number 16 is I Know. So what does he know? He says, I know. Why didn't he call it the song, You Know? People say, hey, they're telling a story, right? And they interject, you know, every third sentence, every second sentence. They'll say, well, I was going down the street, you know, and this big dog came out of nowhere and started chasing me. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, yeah, I know what a dog is. And I'm running, and the dog's behind me. I'm like, oh my God. You know, so we went down Main Street, you know, and then you don't have to interject, you know. I understand the story. The dog was chasing you. I'll get it. You don't have to say you know. So that's what Posty is alluding to, that you don't have to say you know. That as people, we know ourselves. That's why the song's called I Know. And you should act accordingly, basically. And then finally, wow, what a song, number 17, wow. I mean, how many hits are on this album? There's 17 songs, and there's like, what, 15 hits? There's a couple of ones that maybe didn't make it, but they may have personal appeal to both the artist and the audience, because this is one of the bigger selling albums ever. All right? And who knows what's going to come next. It's so exciting with an artist like Post Malone. But wow is a great way to end the album. He's talking about life itself, that everything is amazing. It's amazing that we can live in the greatest country on the face of the earth with freedoms and enjoy the natural beauty that is all around us, even though you might live in downtown Los Angeles like I did, and there's some unnatural beauty going on, but really it's about the preciousness and the value and the beauty of life itself. Wow. And what a great way to finish this Lyrics Explained, where I went through all 17 tracks of this Hollywood's Bleeding album that people have been asking me, Joe, can you just get to it? We want your take. I said, well, it's been out a while. I mean, sometimes people want to hear the fresh takes. My fresh takes on the fresh music. They're like, Joe, it's for history. It's a document that will live forever on the interwebs. And if you avoid it, you would be doing a disservice to the lyrics explanation community as one of the leaders in the genre. And I said, all right. Well, here you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. That's Post Malone, Hollywood's Bleeding. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.